Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 48 of the Rock Podcast for those about to pod. We salute you. In this episode, it's the letter E in the A to Z of rock. We look at recent news. We also discuss some recent new releases in New Rock on the Block. There's Hidden Gem Time, of course, and many more of your favourite features. So here he is, exciting, enigmatic, engaging, and plenty of other words beginning with E. Here's Brian.
Exhausted after that.
Yeah, you and me both. Gee. E, of course, is as we said earlier, it's the latest letter in our merry trip through the rock alphabet. We're at letter E. If you want to listen to A to D, then go and listen online somewhere. Yes, the most used letter in the English language, Brian. Did you know that, the letter E?
I was not aware of that, Matthew.
Yeah, well, now you are. There you go. Every day's a school day on the old podcast. So how you been? You doing all right?
I'm doing good. It's, not been to many gigs since we last recorded, but I did go and see Jeff Tate in Bannerman's.
Oh, you started the world record attempt, have you?
I have indeed. One down,
good on you.
85 to go.
That's right, yeah. Do you know what? Funny, actually, a lot of people have come up to me in the street, as they do, just randomly. I said, yes, what can I do for you? And they said, I want to ask you about that world record for gigs. I said, yeah, it was low, wasn't it? And they said, yeah, we couldn't believe it either.
I know.
And as I said at the time, as we said at the time, I'm sure there are plenty of people thinking, I could do that. That could be me. Yeah. Well, as I said to you, Bannerman's, it's like, what was it, a walk from you in Edinburgh?
Yeah.
You could be there. You could be there tonight. I don't know who's playing tonight, but, you know.
Yeah. Great. No. I went to see Jeff Tate. Jeff Tate was doing a greatest hits of Queensryche. Sounding fabulous. Lots of tracks off Rage for Order, Operation Mindcrime, possibly an album beginning with the letter E that we'll talk about later. He was in great form, and the support band was the singer that we saw last year, Matt, Mark Daly. Mark was sounding great. He's got some new material coming out very, very soon. He played with Jeff, and Mark shared the same backing band at the gig, but I was so surprised with Jeff's vocal. Sounding really, really good. So that was kind of my gig of notes since the last time we recorded. Have you been to anything?
Well, yeah, a couple of things, actually. I went to see a triple headliner, Taiketo, Dare and FM, which I think that are becoming more and more popular, those triple headliner or even double headliner with a good support act. They're becoming more and more popular because, by their very nature, they spread the cost. They all use the same kit largely the same kit. I think it's the way forward. And this is great. Taiketo opened up. They on this particular show in London, and they've taken it in turns to kind of alternate the headliner and the first on and everything. And I hadn't seen Taiketo before, and I thought they were great.
Danny Vaughan's a brilliant singer.
Brilliant singer, good front man, great songs. They did, as you can imagine, in an hour, they did their sort of greatest hits set, largely culled from their opening album, actually their first album, Don't Come Easy. Some songs from Strength and Numbers and so on. But yeah, good, really good. And I think, I'm seeing them later this year, actually. Looking forward to seeing them again when they're back over in late part of the year for festivals. Dare were good. Darren Morton's a very engaging front man, got a good band with him. And I had plenty of nods to his time in Thin Lizzy, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
And put a few Dare songs on the old playlist. But yeah, he's good. He's very engaging, nice guy. Wearing sunglasses inside, though. I'm never quite sure about that. I mean, he got bright lights, of course, at gigs. But sunglasses inside, I don't know. I mean, maybe he has got an eye issue. Bless him, Darren.
Yeah.
And if you're listening, Darren, and if you do have an eye issue, I apologise. But sunglasses inside, I don't know.
I have a theory about that.
Do you?
I
Go on,
have.
hit me with it.
You know the way in big arenas now, Matt, lots of artists will use teleprompters.
Yes.
So I'm wondering sometimes if you wear the sunglasses, then the audience won't be able to see people's eyes as they're looking down to the teleprompter.
That's a good point, actually. Because there are a few singers who shall remain nameless who use teleprompters, and it's pretty clear that they're looking down, because it's normally down at the kind of ground level with the,
Absolutely.
with the wedges and with the monitors. Yeah, it's a good point. Or maybe it's just he just doesn't like the bright lights.
Yeah.
We digress, of course. And then FM headline, who were their usual. I mean, it's so good, FM. Steve Overland, as you said many times, one of the great rock voices of the last 30, 40 years,
Absolutely,
or forever,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, amazing consistent band, and always good to see good old FM. So yeah, it was a fun night. I went to the Call of the Wild festival. That was good.
It's a new one, is it? A new festival?
It's been around a few years. It's been around a few years, right in the middle of Britain. In Lincolnshire, it was good, really well organised. Good weather too, and some great acts. It bills itself as the kind of family grassroots festival, and that's certainly true. There's loads of kids there, which is great to see, and people of all different ages, of course. Really, as I said, really well organised, good fun. Saw some great bands. Got to give a shout out to excellent band called Until 9. Had a chat with those guys who were very nice to catch up with them. Excellent band called Tail Gunner, who to call yourself out after a Maiden song.
Exactly, that's my thoughts. Yeah,
that's a great Maiden song. I spoke to them afterwards. The oldest one is 29, but they dress like Metallica and Maiden from about 1983, 84. Brilliant. Spandex.
White baseballs.
Exactly. White high tops and everything. Yeah, brilliant. Flying V's and everything. And they were great. Tail Gunner. Really enjoyed them. Kicking Valentina, who we'd seen last year at Stone Dead.
We did.
Were great. They were really good value. Good fun. Really, really great hooky songs. TerraVision headlining Saturday night, and Those Damn Crows on the Sunday night. I mean, just fantastic performances from those two. But TerraVision, you were reminding me earlier. TerraVision are doing was it 30 years of TerraVision?
Yeah. They're going to be doing 3 special shows at the back end of the year. It's just by request. So they're going to be. I'm assuming they're going to put. Probably through their websites and the socials, 3 shows full of requests from their fans, but they're playing at 3 iconic venues, which I've been to 2 of them. So I've been to the Electric Ballroom, I've been to Nottingham Rock City, which I love that venue. And the one venue I've not been to, which will be a hometown gig for TerraVision, which is the famous St George's Hall in Bradford. Always in the back of crying, wasn't it? Up there with the Tivoli, the Tivoli in Buckley.
That's right.
I've no idea where it is.
Tony Wright, though, as a front man, I mean, we talked many times about different types of front people, front men, front women. But Tony Wright is quite unique. He's a good singer, and he's so engaging. But the energy this guy has, oh my goodness me! And he's just he's really slim, and because he doesn't work out every gig. Amazing.
They did. I'm almost certain. Didn't they do a set at Rambling Man one year?
I think they did. Yeah, I think they did actually.
It was like a mid-afternoon set.
Perfect for that. For that kind of tea time slot.
Absolutely, they were great. He's very. He's like an Energizer bunny, isn't he?
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So they were good. Good headliner. There was a band there this is a true story actually. I saw a band there who I auditioned for 10 years ago. True story. I said to my wife, I saw them on the bill. They were sure remain nameless, by the way. No one big, particularly with all due respect. But I saw them and I thought, hang on a minute, you got to audition for them. And sure enough, when I saw a few of the guys, I thought, yeah, he's the guitarist, he's a drummer, and so on. I think that's a first for me, to go into a festival and seeing a band that I'd actually audition for, as a singer, of course. My favourite band the whole weekend, I have to say, by some distance, and that's not because they only lived about 5 miles down the road from me, was the Karma Effect. They were just great. Great band. Lovely guys too. Check out the Karma Effect. I think they're going to be big. They're playing a few festivals this year. We're going to see them at Steelhouse. They're on at Stone Dead as well. Really, really good band. Check them out. So yeah, we're on a good festival.
So speaking of festivals, it's the 20th anniversary of Download this year, and Metallica had their 2 nights sessions where they played 2 completely different sets. No song was played twice over the weekend. Bring Me the Horizon played on the Friday night, and Slipknot are finishing up the festival. I always think that's a tough slot, because everybody's probably wanting to go home. I know that Download had a lot of challenges with noise complaints and travel to get into it. But it sounds as if Metallica put on a fantastic show from the YouTube footage that we've seen, and they were being great. I know that they've got their own charity foundations, etc., and they donated £40,000 to help the homeless in Leicestershire, which is fantastic. Metallica have kicked the big festivals off in fantastic style.
But I heard, however, on the downside, I don't know, this must be a first, because as you say, Download's been going for 20 years. So I'm surprised this hasn't come up before. But and I don't know what they're going to do about this when Download get these complaints from people 15 miles away complaining about the noise. Now, 15 miles is a long way for sound to travel, of course, and for someone to be, so impacted by it that they feel the need to complain. I don't know. I mean, we do like to complain in this country, but sometimes, it's a little bit unnecessary. I'd be great with it. If I lived down the road, I'd be like, great, free concert. Hello. Fantastic.
There was somebody on social media I thought was brilliant. It was a guy from Newcastle. And he said over the weekend, he said, message to Metallica, can you turn it up? I can't hear it.
That's a spirit. That's what we like.
So speaking of Newcastle, Sam Fender, who is an emerging new singer-songwriter in the kind of Lewis Capaldi, he's one of the new emerging artists.
Good name, Sam Fender.
It's great, isn't it? Yeah, and he plays the Fender Stratocaster as well too, which is...
Does he?
He does indeed.
Oh, good on him. I like that. It'd be a bit weird if he played a Gibson or an Ibanez or
Jackson.
It
would be. It's just there. He's a marketing manager's dream, isn't he? Hi, my name's Sam Fender. So he's obviously a big ticket item, because he's played 2 sold out nights at St James's Park in Newcastle, which is a 50,000 seater stadium. And on Saturday night, 10th of June, who wheels out one of the world's probably biggest celebrity Newcastle United fans? Mr. Brian Johnson. So Sam Fender brings Brian Johnson on stage with his band and belts out Back in Black and You Shook Me All Night Long. And Brian is sounding absolutely fantastic, Matt. And it was really interesting because... Sam Fender's audience are standing there, and he walks up to the mic and said, let's do a little bit of Back in Black, and the crowd are really, really they're just like really into it, and Jono just comes on and just starts belting it out. So sounding good for those people who are thinking, power trip in October when AC/DC come back to live stage. I think those people are lucky enough to see that. Are in for a fantastic show with AC/DC. So that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's great. Good on Sam Fender. And yeah, as you say, 50,000 at St James's Park. Well, funny you should mention Brian Johnson, of course. But I read, and this is hope for us all, of course, because as we said many times, I think universally AC/DC are loved. I mean, there aren't many people that think, oh, I don't like them. A bit like the Foos and a bit like Guns N' Roses. They're generally, and Metallica. They transcend all types of kind of rock music fans. And Brian Johnson has said that the juices of a very Brian Johnson thing to say. The juices are flowing. The juices are running again in the AC/DC camp, which I think is lovely. A nice metaphor, Brian. Basically, we're up for a tour, and which they are. Brian Johnson, I think sometimes maybe he may be getting ahead of himself. I'm not sure if the rest of the band, who are now in their sort of late 60s, 70s, their juices are quite as running as Brian's are necessarily. However, we live in hope for an AC/DC world tour in support of 2020's Power Up album, which was pretty good. We talked about that time, didn't we?
We did.
But yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? I mean, the sort of band you could just say, okay, fine. 5 nights, Wembley Stadium, 5 nights at Hampden, or and so on.
Oh, so you're going to give us some shows in the rest of the UK outside of London, then?
I thought I might have for a change.
Thanks.
5 nights at Hampden. It's Hampden, the big, wherever, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we live in hope of an AC/DC tour, or at least maybe a Wembley Stadium gig. That would do me. I'll get the tube there. That'd be nice.
Yeah, and one thing to watch out.
My money, however, I'm just going to say for the record, my money is on AC/DC doing one of the slots in Download 24. You heard it here first, boys and girls. I have no inside knowledge, of course, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. And one thing to maybe finish off this section, Matt, is we've got Glastonbury later this month. There's an interesting slot on the Pyramid stage on Friday the 23rd of June. It's an hour and 15 slot, and it's a mystery band called the Churn-Ups. And there's a lot of chat that possibly it's the Foo Fighters, and a lot of people are hanging their hats or hoping that Dave Grohl had put a message out following the recent shows with Josh Freese, where David said, "It feels good to see you churning up those emotions together." So the mystery band is called the Churn-Ups.
Yeah.
So the internet's going a little bit crazy, going, could the mystery band for Glastonbury this year be the Foos?
Yes.
We shall wait and see.
If I was a betting man, which I am occasionally, I would put at least a 5 or maybe a 10 on that as being absolutely spot on. I mean, and they're coming on before Royal Blood. They were good band, and Arctic Monkeys, another good band, of course. But would you really want to follow the Foos / the Churn-Ups? But we shall see. It might be just some sort of mystery band that no one's ever heard of. And all the people watching, all the hundreds of thousands watching in front of the Pyramid stage might be, slightly disappointed.
Exactly.
Not the Foos.
Sorry, we are a new band called the Churn-Ups.
Exactly. Yeah, hi. Yeah, it's our first gig. Yeah, we're not very good. We apologise in advance. But we can do some Foo Fighters songs for you. And they do them badly. That'd be hilarious. I told you about the time when I saw the Foo Fighters tribute band, who are called, you see, the UK Foo Fighters or Foo Fighters UK, one of the two. I mean, from a distance, at Glastonbury, you put them on the stage, on the Pyramid stage, it is the Foo Fighters. The look, the sound, everything. So maybe, anyway, it's likely to be the Foo Fighters. I said it here first. It's likely to be headlining next year, Download AC/DC. This is just speculation from my perspective, of course. We shall see.
We shall indeed.
That was that. That was the news, Brian. It's now time, boys and girls, a book club of rock, our occasional feature where Brian reads an occasional book, occasionally. How many books you get through a year now, Brian? 3, 4?
I think it's going to be 3 or 4 this year.
This year?
Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, thanks.
Good on you, man.
Thanks.
Good on you. And that's not colouring books, is it? That's proper reading books.
This is why my selection for this episode is really good, because I'm going...
It's mainly pictures.
So, the book that I'm putting forward into our library for our library.
I just picture this library of rock going off into the distance.
Exactly.
Like something out of Indiana Jones, a giant warehouse. Brian, could he wander down 500 columns and pick out the book?
Exactly. So, the book I have, and I've actually read it, Matt, cover to cover. It's fabulous.
Well done.
It's definitely by
what?
by Def Leppard. So what's great about the book that I bring forward for our library of rock,
yes,
is the new hardback book of the official story of Def Leppard. And it's a 300-page tome, hardback book.
Wow.
It's fabulous.
Well done.
I
well
know.
done, Brian.
Now, how many pages of the 300 book pages, how much of it's written and how much of it's pictures and scrapbook memorabilia from the band, Matt, I'll let our readers decide and listeners decide whenever they get the book. But it's actually fabulous. The best way I can describe it, it's a part scrapbook, part photo album, and part memoir, which includes all of the band. So, past members, Steve Clark, every single member of the band, has through archive. It's the telling of the story, the EPs, how they started, the tours with AC/DC. You go through Pyromania to Hysteria, the wilderness years with Slang and 10. It's a fabulous book. And what's really great, for those of us here in the UK who bought Kerrang on a weekly basis, you've got all of the covers that they had of Kerrang, and a lot of the pictures. Ross Halfin, who has followed Def Leppard for years, there's lots of pictures from Ross, from Mick Rock as well too, who did remember the covers album that they did. Yay.
Yeah.
So
of course.
Mick Rock did a lot of the pictures for that album, which is based on the covers. So I have to say, I read it over 2 nights, Matt. It was just fabulous, and it's probably the best telling story of Def Leppard from beginning to end. So, and for a book which is a hardback, 300 pages, it's a fair old tome. It's only 30 quid.
Wow.
So, my recommendation for Book Club of Rock this episode is definitely by Def Leppard.
Very good. Very good. I shall have a read when it goes into the library of rock. Are you in charge of the library of rock, by the way? You got to check things out and put a stamp in them and everything. Okay.
Talking about albums.
What a segue.
Yeah.
Segues just get better and better on this show, don't they? New Rock on the Block time.
It is indeed New Rock on the Block time. And we have got 3 albums, Matthew.
Yes.
That we're going to look at. Three albums.
Yes.
We've got we're going to look at the new Extreme album. We'll have a shifty at the Foo Fighters' new album, but I think we should kick off with a band who a couple of members you saw off, a little while ago at a Planet Rock acoustic show, which you said was fantastic at the time when we discussed it. The Rival Sons' new album, Dark Fighter. What did you think of it?
What I think of it, on the whole, I liked it, Brian. I heard a few songs from it before it was released. Nobody Wants to Die and Bird in the Hand, which are good kind of classic Rival Sons songs. And if you've never listened to Rival Sons before, this is probably a good starting point for you, good entry point for you. Seventh album. We first saw them about 2010, 11 time.
That's right.
Early on a festival stage in London at the High Voltage Festival. Good album. It's got all sorts of different styles and kind of sort of influences. I really like the song Mirrors, which kicks off the album. 40 minutes long as an album, so it's kind of old school, really. As we said several times, good to fit on two sides of vinyl, of course. And I mean, the singing, it's quite a dark album. The singing is great. J. Buchanan is really, I mean, he leaves it all out there, as it were. And songs like Rapture, I mean, it's just, you know, you just know that every note is coming from his soul, basically. But yeah, some good songs. It's again, as we've said many times, not an immediate album. Needs 2 or 3 listens before you probably appreciate it. But yeah, I did enjoy it. And as I say, if you like this album, then go back and check out their first 6 albums, because they're a good band and they've done some great stuff over the years. Great musicians, good singer Jay Buchanan, great guitarist in Scott Holiday. So yeah, go check them out. How about you, bro? What do you think?
I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. The opening track to me is the track of the album, Mirrors. We've talked about Greta Van Fleet with the Led Zeppelin influences. Mirrors starts off in a really, you know, it's very riffy, this album. And then there's a lovely little quiet acoustic moment in Mirrors, which just reminded me of Ramble On.
Right, yes.
Yeah, it's got that nice Zeppelin feel to it, where you've just got the dynamics of the light and shade. Nobody Wants to Die. There's, as you say, there's so many different influences. There's like a lo-fi punk, you know, that sort of New York Dolls, Stooges feel to some of the riffing, and some White Stripes, sort of that, you know, sort of really breaking up guitar. But you know, Jay's singing, I think the production, you just hear every note and every nuance in his vocal. You know, you feel I listen to just the intensity and the sharpness of the recording. So it's such a well produced album that I would totally agree with you. I think it's a grower. When I first listened to it in the first couple of listens, I didn't get it. You know, I loved Mirrors right from the get go, and I think the more I listen to it, the more I think it's going to be a grower for the end of the year. Fantastic singer, and just all the musicians are great. Really, really, they're at the top of their game, and hopefully they can get out touring that album and get playing bigger venues. Matt, I can't believe some of the venues that the Rival Sons have been playing over the last couple of years. They should be playing theatres and getting back out doing some arena shows with bigger bands.
Yeah, I'm with you. Oh, good album. Which brings us to the new Foo Fighters album, the much awaited album by the Foo Fighters called But Here We Are. Interesting album, actually. I bought the CD of it, and it comes in just a plain white cover. No, right, apart from the sort of Foo Fighters album, Foo Fighters name, you wouldn't know what it was. A very kind of faintly printed lyric sheet inside, which maybe just badly printed. But in a way, I think, and I was thinking about this today, very similar to the way that AC/DC put out Back in Black in 1980, which in itself was a kind of tribute to Bon Scott. Yeah. The white, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating. I purposely didn't read any reviews of it, but it might be that this is certainly the album itself is, you can listen to it. You can listen to it and assume that every song is essentially a tribute to either Dave Grohl's late mother, who died fairly recently, and obviously Taylor Hawkins, who we know died last year. So but I absolutely loved it. Absolutely amazing album from start to finish. Probably one of the best Foo Fighters albums best albums of Foo Fighters they've made, and just quality throughout. From the opening song "Rescued," "Under You," I can't get out of my head. Brilliant song. Through to "The Teacher," which is about David Grohl's mum, who was a teacher. Just great melodies, great playing, heartfelt lyrics throughout. Or at least you can interpret them as being heartfelt lyrics, of course, and they likely are. Mm-hmm. Hearing Voices, for example. I mean, anyone who's lost someone will that song will resonate with you. Hear the song "Hearing Voices." Just listen to the lyrics. It's just beautiful. So, I mean, if there's a better album this year, Brian, I'll be very surprised. Just fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I listened to the album. I've listened to the album a few times, and when you've got a band that open an album, which is can I use the word musically euphoric in Rescued? It's a really positive. It's a very positive. It's positively musical, and then when you read the lyrics, there's the melancholy. Just using their Dave's lyrics. You can understand. Talking about his mom, talking about Taylor in it. The best way I can describe this album is I think this potentially will go down as the Foo Fighters' Abbey Road. And the reason why I use the comparison with Abbey Road is the Beatles were dissolving at the time they were making Abbey Road, and it was one big final push for the Beatles, and you end that album with the end, the Beatles, and when you listen the whole way through the Foos album, and it comes to the last track, which is Rest, and the lyric of "Rest, you can rest now, rest, you will be safe now," it just bookends the album amazingly. The title track, "But Here We Are," I'm hearing Rush. It's epic. It's progressive. The time signatures, the lovely song. You talk about the songs, which the earworm of the album for me, apart from Rescued, which I think is amazing, is "Show Me How," which is the song which Dave has his daughter Violet singing on, which gets you into that My Bloody Valentine, Cocteau Twins, ethereal vocals. So I think your description of this album is it's going to have to take a very, very special album, Matt, to topple the Foos for the best album of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great album.
For those who, indeed, yeah, amazing. For those who don't know, Brian and I do a album of the year, song of the year, and so on. I've already got my song of the year, by the way, tucked away, I think.
My song of the year may be on the next album we're going to review.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, let's talk about that then. The new album from Extreme, called... What's it called, Brian?
Six.
And the reason I say that, because last time I was being a bit disparaging about bands who unimaginatively call their album 6 or 7 or 8 or 5 or whatever. Six by Extreme. Their first album for, is it 15 years?
15 years.
Since So Dads of Rock. I remember that album.
I like that album.
Yeah, some good songs on it. But this is Six. Probably a better title than So Dads of Rock, to be honest with you. Rise and Banshee have been the lead-off songs from it, of course, which are fantastic songs and real showcases for the great Nuno Betancourt's really amazing guitar. You're a half-decent guitarist, we've established, Brian. You must obviously be heavily influenced by the great Nuno. But
Yes,
Apart from Rise
yes, very much influenced, Matthew, to the point of I'm influenced that I put a lead into my guitar. That's as much as the similarities between Nuno Bettencourt and me. We use electricity to plug our guitars in. That's it.
Yeah, fair enough. So apart from the Rise and Banshee, which are two great songs, what do you make of the rest of the album, Brian?
Well, I think that Rise, as the single, it's probably got nobody will play a better guitar solo tapping. It was just frightening when I heard that single. It was just amazing. I actually think the middle of the album, as you say, Rise, Banshee, and Rebel are the three sort of. They are the three rockers of the album, which kick it off, but it's the middle of the album that really brings out the great tracks for me. The sort of mid-tempo other side of the rainbow, which kind of showcases Nuno. Let's not forget Pat Badger as well too. Nuno, Pat, and Gary's wonderful harmony vocals, which is very reminiscent of Wholehearted and Tragic Comic. Yep. So that sets it up, the great track Other Side of Rainbow. The song which potentially could be my song of the year is the next song, which is a song called Small Town Beautiful. Yeah. And the way in which Nuno and Gary's vocals, it's very much a ballad. We're not talking more than words, but it's a very slow track. It's just, it's fabulous. I just love the song. I love the production, and I love the way in which, we'll talk about something later on which helps out singers. But I really got a sense of Gary Sharon's vocal is very deep. It's just been so well produced. So the middle of the album, I was kind of going, this could be my album of the year. Then when we get into the latter parts of the album, Thicker Than Blood's kind of Rage Against the Machine.
Yep.
And then the last couple of tracks, Matt, just let it down for me. We talk about that track.
Beautiful Girls.
Yes.
Yeah, a song called Beautiful Girls on it, which I think it's a bit of fun, really. It's kind of in a reggae tempo, isn't it? And it is quite an eclectic album.
Yeah.
You got the rockers in Rise and Banshee, as you say. You got a couple of ballads back to back in Other Side of Rainbow and Small Town Beautiful. We got, as you say, a bit of. I hadn't kind of sensed the Rage Against the Machine influences, but I can see that.
Yeah.
Hurricane, I think, is really good.
Yes.
So it's I think it's a bit of fun. And I was listening to this today. Needless to say, I was out walking the dog, and that's why I listened to most albums. And I was thinking, well, Led Zepp got away with it with Jamaica. So why not Extreme with Beautiful Girls? So I think it may have been slightly tongue in cheek, but I really wanted to like this album. So I listened to it and listened to it and listened to it, and as we've said many times, it's like the old days when you were young. It took me a few listens to get into it, kind of. And I came out thinking, it is a good, strong album. It's a good return from them. It's got a bit of everything. And if you like, as you say, the harmony vocals, it's got those. If you like the Nuno shredding, it's got that as well. So, good album. Check out Extreme and 6. Now it's time for the A to Z of rock. And we've reached the letter E, Brian. What have you got for us in E?
Well, Matthew, all ears. I was thinking about what is the greatest album that I have in my collection, which begins with the letter E. And it was easy.
Okay. Was it?
It's easy.
Who's that by? Then?
It was Journey, and it's Escape, Matt. 1981. It spawned that song, which has been streamed a gazillion times.
Yeah.
But I think for most fans outside of the US, that was the album which we all got to hear. Stone of Love, Don't Stop Believing, Who's Crying Now. Oh my goodness. Open Arms, which as we know will be re-recorded for Dolly Parton's rock album. So I had to kick off E with Escape, Matt. A great album. Do you remember it?
I do. Yeah, I remember it very well. It is a good album. I do remember Stone in Love and, of course, Don't Stop Believing, which I think is a staple on our playlist. My favourite song on the album, however, is the title track.
Really?
It was made even... Yeah, because do you remember that live concert from Houston?
Yes.
They did to promote the album and great. So, yeah, good album. Good choice. Good choice. Well, on albums then, I'm mentioning live albums. Exit Stage Left by the Mighty Rush. Also from 81, I think, from memory. That's a good album. Just an excuse to talk about Rush and, promote. That was on the Moving Pictures tour. I don't know where it was recorded, but
Glasgow, Apollo.
Well, part of it's from Glasgow.
Yeah.
Close to the heart, it's got the famous Glasgow Choir, of course. It's got Red Barchetta on there and Xanadu and La Villa Strangiato and so on. So, yeah, we got off to a good start, off to a flyer. A couple of bands to mention, quite a few bands actually, and we'll come back to the notable mentions earlier because people are going to say, what about Exile on Main Street? What about Empire by Queensryche? I can hear them now. People will stop me in the street and ask me that, as they often do. A couple of bands to mention, the Eagles, of course. The Mighty Eagles. I'm not talking about Crystal Palace here, by the way. I'm talking about the band that was formed in 1971 in Los Angeles, who started out apparently as Linda Ronstadt's backing band.
That's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. They've done all right for themselves, haven't they, the Eagles?
Well, and they, if you remember rightly, an accolade that can never be taken away from them. They had, I think it's in America, they had the biggest selling album of this century in their greatest hits. Yeah,
indeed. Yeah, which is quite nice, isn't it? I mean, I was reading about them earlier. I mean, they're as you say, like, 6 Grammys and 6 gold albums and, and so on and so forth. I mean, just, mega stats.
Yeah.
But yeah, still going strong. Few of the members have sadly passed away and of course been fired in typical Eagles style, but essentially still a great band, of course. What are your favourites, of course, Brian? Exactly. That's almost your signature tune. Europe.
Ah, yes, the Mighty Europe. Formed,
you like them, don't you?
Formed in 1979. They are currently the top band that I have seen the most.
Is that right?
Yep, they're joint level with King's X.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. But this year, Europe will go into sole first position.
I bet they'll be very pleased about that. you meet Joey Tempest strolling around London.
Exactly. Yeah, great band, and we all remember Europe with their I suppose their breakthrough album in 1986, which was The Final Countdown. They've only sold, Matt, about 10 million albums worldwide, so not a massive, in comparison to the likes of Def Leppard and AC/DC, etc. But when you look at their back catalogue, the Final Countdown album, and even the later albums, when they got back together in 2003, Start from the Dark, Last Look at Eden, Bag of Bones. What I know the tour that you and I went to, which is the War of Kings, and also Walk the Earth. Fabulous band, and they are now turning into that classic rock heritage band. They're the influences of Whitesnake, Purple, Rainbow, Thin Lizzy, UFO. Great band, and still delivering the goods, as we saw in Steelhouse.
That's right. Brief mention for ELO. You talk about 10 million albums. So their album Out of the Blue, which is their 7th album, And that spawned Turn to Stone, Mr. Blue Sky, Walkie Talkie Woman, Wild Based Heroes, some great songs. That in itself sold 10 million copies globally, would you believe?
Wow.
Out of the blue alone. And everything on it was written by Jeff Lynne and produced by the great man. Wow. I think he's probably done all right out of that album. God bless him. Other notable mentions in band-wise, one of my favourite newer bands, fantastic band from the northeast of England, is Eden Thorn. Seen them a few times. Great band, great singer, great songs. Check them out if they play near you. ELP, of course. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You must like them. You're a prog guy.
I am. I was so chuffed when the High Voltage Festival was about 2010 and 2011, Matt, because I finally got to see ELP. 3 musicians. It would have been amazing to see them in the 70s when they were really at the top of their game. Greg Lake, Carl Palmer and Keith Emerson. 3 individual musicians. Greg Lake with this almost chorister, pure vocal with his acoustic. Keith Emerson with his completely progressive, mad keyboard sticking. He was, what did they call him? The Jimi Hendrix of the keyboards. And then Carl Palmer, who's just an amazing, amazing drummer. So yes, I love ELP. They're an amazing band.
Very good. Finally, a couple of mentions outside the box. Eddie, the ubiquitous Iron Maiden mascot, who's he's kind of grown and metamorphosized so many times over the years. But I remember him when he was simply a box. A little head, a little mask above the band, above the drummer. This is back in the very early days. And then, they just spit out blood. Oh, not actual blood, of course. It was like some sort of fake blood through a goldfish, a pub thing. And my first time seeing Eddie was the roadies used to come out. It was a Killers tour. Roadies used to come out with little masks on and spray, I don't know, dry ice or whatever it was across the audience, which famously, as you were telling me earlier, was Nick McBrain's first appearance with Maiden as an Eddie.
Yep.
Back in 81 or so, when he was with Trust, presumably. Great band.
If you don't mind, there's somebody who I have to mention as in our A to Z for ease. And this man, to me, has been voted by many as the greatest bass player of all time. He goes by the name of the Ox, Thunderfingers, the Quiet One, Big Johnny Twinkle. I didn't know about that one.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
Right.
Big Johnny Twinkle. We have to finish off this A to Z section with John Entwistle for a band that we don't really talk about much on the show, The Who. But John Entwistle is regarded, as I say, as one of the greatest bass players. For a lot of musicians, if you were to talk to Pete Townsend, when they talked about who the lead instruments were in The Who, it was lead drums from Keith Moon, lead bass from John Entwistle, and actually the person that was keeping the rhythm was Pete Townsend. So we have to give a shout out to John Entwistle, who sadly passed away in 2002, I think, in Las Vegas, and they had to I think they were on tour, and very, very quickly Pino Palladino was ushered in very, very quickly to help the band out and stayed with the band. But John Entwistle finishes off E for me, Matt, in our A to Z Rock.
So, Brian, that brings us to Unsung Heroes, wherein we discuss someone behind the scenes who doesn't always get the plaudits and the accolades of the stars. And this time, it's a chap called Brian David Vig, also known as Butch, the great Butch Vig, musician, songwriter, and of course, best known as a producer. And best known probably for his work with Nirvana, of course, famously produced Nevermind. And has gone on to produce many, many other bands over the years. And an all-round nice guy, from what I can see, for a producer, that is. And recently, bringing up to date, he's worked with the Foo Fighters, he worked with Green Day, and he's. I don't think he quite gets the recognition. Clearly, he's obviously very well thought of in the rock genre. But I just thought I'd bring up Butch Vig, Brian. Thoughts about Butch?
Absolutely great choice as an unsung hero. He, for somebody who was as fragile and quiet as Kurt Cobain was, he's one of those producers. As the nice guy that he is, he coaxed performances, particularly out of Kurt.
Yes,
from a singing perspective, and there's a fantastic interview on the series Classic Albums where Butch is working with Kurt to try and coax some vocal performances out of him, and Kurt was such a massive Beatles fan, and I think that's where all of the Nirvana members they all joined together with their love of the Beatles, and I know that in order for Kurt refused to double track his vocals and guitars, and Butch wanted to get that sort of richness of the vocal, and Kurt was having none of it. And then Butch said, well, John Lennon double-tracked his vocals. So then Kurt was, that was the lovely way that he got Kurt to do what he wanted him to do, which was double-track the vocals. Great producer. Also did quite a bit of work with Jimmy Eat World, and he produced the Smashing Pumpkins as well too.
Yep.
But as you say, probably well known for his production career. But for I think he wanted a break after Nevermind in the production, and he kind of put Garbage together.
That's right.
Which I remember going out and buying the first single. It was about 95, 96, Stupid Girl.
Oh yeah, that's a good song, that, isn't it?
Really, really good song.
Shirley Manson singing,
yeah.
Of course. Yeah, good show. I didn't know he formed them, but you say 93, he formed Garbage. Good on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly a man of many talents, much like yourself, Bri. So that was Unsung Hero.
Yeah.
For this time. So finally, it brings us to everyone's favourite part of the show, Brian.
Hidden Gems Eyes.
Oh, thanks, Lola. Sounding good as always. What you got for us this time, Brian?
I have an album from a band, Matt.
Wow, really?
I have indeed.
Not an album from a band, surely
exactly.
not.
And
wow.
I'm gonna. I'm just gonna test you. Which record label do you think this album might be from?
I don't know until you ask me.
It might be the one that I get a quid for every time I mention them.
Oh, good old Frontiers. Another pound in the pot for Brian.
Another pound in the pot. This is a band, and it's actually an album that was released this year, earlier this year. In fact, it was released on St. Patrick's Day. The band is called The band is called Cross Country Driver, and their debut album is called The New Truth. So it's fronted by Rob Lamoth. Rob is the lead singer of the River Dogs, which were a great band in the 90s. Features a well-known guitarist from Def Leppard. And when you look at the list of guests that Rob has been able to pull together for this album, Mike Mangini from Dream Theater's on the album, Greg Chasin, who's a great bass player who featured on the Badlands albums with Ray Gillen and Jakey Lee. Doug Pinnock turns up on a few tracks. A really funky track called A Man With No Direction. And a beautiful song, beautiful ballad on the album is where Vivian. So Vivian of Campbell turns up and plays some beautiful guitar. It's actually some lovely slide guitar reminiscent of George Harrison on a track called Risen. So it was released on St. Patrick's Day, and my hidden gem is The New Truth by Cross Country Driver.
Good choice.
What about you,
Brian?
mate?
I've got another album as well.
Oh,
By a band. And but it's not on Frontiers. Another pound for you, Brian.
okay.
It's 2022 album, released, strange enough, the day after St. Patrick's Day, on the 18th of March last year. And I mentioned them earlier, The Karma Effect, the first album by The Karma Effect, called The Karma Effect, which is also S/T. For years, I didn't know what that meant, S/T, when you see it written down, you know. But anyway, this is the S/T album, The Karma Effect. Great songs on this. If you've seen The Karma Effect, Testify is probably the standout song, which is a standout song on the album, but also Steal Your Heart and The River. It's got a very cool contemporary sound. Got a bit of Black Crows thrown in, got a bit of sort of Dirty Honey kind of sound to it, but they're not quite the same as Dirty Honey. There's been similarities mentioned, but I don't think they're quite the same. But yeah, good band, as I say, good guys. And so my hidden gem for this episode, Brian, is The Karma Effect self-titled album. How about that?
Fabulous. There you go. That
was it.
Yeah, episode 48. All wrapped up.
All wrapped up with a nice bow on it.
And that's it, Matt. That's another episode done. You will find the show on all of the usual podcasting platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we're now on Scotland Rocks Radio, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
So,
thanks for listening.
And we'll see you all next time. Bye for now.
Those That Pub We Salute You is a Maylie Rogers production.